All right, this one's intriguing. Amidst all the chaos, dysfunction, and incompetence in Congress, thanks exclusively to Republicans, by the way, there seems to be an unexpected opportunity for bipartisan reform coming from a very unlikely pair of very different congresspeople. But before we unpack all that, if you haven't yet, please hit that like, subscribe, and the alert bell. Maybe check out my Patreon. I'd appreciate the support. All right, folks, again, very strange stuff. It'll be interesting to see what comes of this, okay? I wouldn't hold my breath, but it's still important that we discuss it. I want to talk to you first about progressive congressman, a Democrat from California, Ro Khanna. Now, he actually met recently with our buddy Destiny, with Vosh, with Emma Vigeland from the Majority Report, I think just this past weekend. And he's trying to do more effective outreach to the younger generation and reach out to like progressive streamers and content creators. But this is a video that he made after Kevin McCarthy was kicked out of the speakership, and he makes a pretty compelling case for some important reforms.
There's a lot of chaos these days on Capitol Hill, and when I talk to people, there is anger that we aren't addressing their real issues, whether it is the cost of gas, the cost of groceries, the cost of rent or buying houses, the fact that wages aren't going up as fast as they should. Kevin McCarthy simply was not able to lead. That's why he was removed. But there needs to be much broader reform to fix this place and put the American people first. First, we need to ban all PAC and lobbyist money from corrupting Washington. Second, we need to ban members of Congress from going and becoming lobbyists. Third, ban members of Congress from stock trading. Fourth, ban members of Congress for staying here for life, have term limits and ethics standards for Supreme Court justices. That's what's really going to bring change in this place. And we need some provision so a small minority of 8 people, 5 people can't hold hostage the entire country demanding cuts for working class and middle class Americans for programs that benefit them. We need reform in this institution.
Well said. Well said. All the things that Representative Khanna mentioned, banning all PAC and lobbyist money, banning Congress members from trading stocks, enacting term limits, and especially ethics rules and term limits for Supreme Court justices, which is vitally important, and banning Congress members from ever becoming lobbyists. All these things poll relatively highly. So it's a very strong progressive case that Ro Khanna is making there. So then you might think, well, if anybody supports this, it's just going to be Democrats. And it's true. Democrats and progressives are infinitely more likely to back stuff like this than Republicans, although that's not saying much. But the other person in this very unlikely pair who endorses these things is none other than Matt Gaetz, the very man who kicked Kevin McCarthy out of the speakership, a MAGA Republican who is truly awful based on what we know of him. But this is what he said publicly on Twitter in response to Ro Khanna. He says, okay, let's negotiate. My GOP colleagues want to raise the threshold on the motion to vacate. The motion to vacate being the mechanism by which Gaetz kicked McCarthy out of his role. Under the current rules, and McCarthy gave this to Republicans in order to get the speakership in the first place, by the way, any Republican can trigger that mechanism. If one Republican is unsatisfied with a speaker's performance, they can trigger this vote, right? So Republicans are saying, hey, listen, okay, this isn't going to work. The next speaker, we got to raise the threshold for the motion to vacate so that one person can't just, throw a tripwire into the system. And Matt Gaetz says this is a question for all of them. If we enact the reforms Representative Ro Khanna lays out here, how high do you think the motion to vacate threshold to be? How much do you want it to be? Because I'll basically give you whatever you want on the motion to vacate for this stuff, talking about the policy lines that Ro Khanna discussed. Now, in response, Ro Khanna said, hey, let's push for a floor vote on any of the 3 items, Matt Gaetz. Instead of having members call each other's name, it's time to recognize the American people are fed up with how this place functions, don't have a high opinion of us, and are demanding some common sense changes. Because as Ro Khanna mentioned in the videos, Americans are mostly concerned, legitimately, with kitchen table issues, things that affect their day-to-day lives. But Ro Khanna is making the case that while that is the end, there are some things about this institution which need to be changed first, this institution being Congress, so that Congress members are actually incentivized to address the needs of the American people. Ro Khanna is making the case that basically the needs of the day-to-day Americans are not going to be met until We force Congress to change certain things, get rid of corrupting influence, put in term limits, prevent them from enriching themselves using their information, their intelligence, their access, and preventing them from becoming lobbyists, which is a good one too. So in response to that, Matt Gaetz says, how many Democrats can you deliver for this agenda? I cap out somewhere around 8. And Ro Khanna said, you know what's sad, Matt? Not more than 10. Let's be honest with folks. The American people should know that fewer than 20 members advocate for banning PAC and lobbyist money, even though that polls at 80%. Many need to be shamed into voting for it once it's put on the floor. Why not? The idea being that instead of people like distracting with issues, if you put a vote to a floor and make them put their name on it with the cameras running, then their constituents will see, wait a minute, Representative so-and-so thinks that they should be able to enrich themselves using congressional information, thinks that powerful external forces should be able to lobby and donate with impunity to corrupt congresspeople. You basically shame them into doing it because very few people will presumably want to put their names into protecting these corrupt practices. So we'll see what happens. I don't trust Matt Gaetz, nor should Ro Khanna, and I doubt Ro Khanna does, but you probably want to try to milk Matt Gaetz for what he's worth, and given Matt Gaetz's past, is probably an unfortunate phrase to use, but you understand what I'm saying. The idea is you very carefully try to use Matt Gaetz in a way that is productive. Don't give him any additional concessions. Don't give him anything up front. But if there's a possibility here between a progressive Democrat to exploit a bad faith MAGA Republican like Matt Gaetz to make some sort of headway on meaningful progressive reforms to Congress, why not? I'm not holding my breath, but I think it's important to highlight.